Good evening, wherever you're watching from, Kenya, East Africa, and beyond. Welcome to Africa Vision Voices. Now, this is where your voice matters, and most importantly, we delve into the African narrative, the African story, and the development idea. Now, this episode is produced by myself and Imani TV in conjunction with Good News Production Africa. Besides, my name is Francis Sakali. Now, this week on the show, we host Innocent Kipkemboi PALGIT. Now, he is the visionary behind One Team Career Coaches who specialize in emigration. The renowned man joins us to talk about opportunities they have spearheaded around the world. He shares his insights about the biggest problem in Africa, his thoughts on the young African population looking to emigrate, what are the challenges and what are the solutions, and how do we get through them as a people of Africa. Plus, Africa's top 10. Now this week we continue with the African population. We analyze immigration rates and percentages of the African continent. We dive into the terrific numbers of the countries in Africa housing the most immigrants in the continent. What are the top 10 countries? What are the figures? How are those figures representative of the entire population? And how do these numbers in these countries communicate in terms of the immigration in the great continent of Africa? You're watching Africa Vision Voices. I'm Francis Sakali. Stay with us. You're watching Africa Vision Voices. Tonight, a look at our top African developments and news. Pro-Palestinian protesters gathered in Algiers on Thursday to condemn US President Joe Biden on Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for complicity in the violence in Gaza. The International Criminal Court has withdrawn charges against Maxime Mokom, a former militia leader in the Central African Republic. And Niger's military rulers say they have foiled an attempt of Mohamed Bazoum, the former president they ousted a coup in July to escape custody. And Liverpool and Egypt star Mo Salah has called for humanitarian aid to be allowed in Gaza immediately, and called on the world leaders to help put on an end to the fighting. And two boats carrying illegal immigrants on Wednesday were intercepted by Senegalese Navy patrol off the coast of Senegal. Let's begin. Pro-Palestinian protesters gathered in Algiers on Thursday to condemn US President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for complicity in the action of violence against Gaza. The protests came days after the country's Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf expressed Algeria's full solidarity with the Palestinians. Now, protesters marching by the country's parliament also criticized other Arabian countries, including neighboring Morocco, that have recently deepened economic and security ties with Israel. Let's listen in.
Pro-Palestinian protesters gathered in Algiers on Thursday to condemn US President Joe Biden and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for complicity in the violence in Gaza. Obviously, the Palestinian people and the Algerian people are of the same blood, speak with the same voice, be it the rulers, the people. Algeria has always been with the Palestinian cause. Protesters marching by the country's parliament also criticized other Arab countries, including neighboring Morocco, that have recently deepened economic and security ties with Israel. It's clear that there's official support from Algeria, which has always been with Palestine, and what's happening today is popular support to denounce what's happening in Gaza and the latest bombing of the hospital. We must all come out and express ourselves concerning the collective massacres taking place in Palestine, and we cannot remain silent. On Tuesday, Algeria's foreign minister expressed the country's full solidarity with the Palestinians.
The International Criminal Court, ICC, has withdrawn charges against Maxime Mokom, a former militia leader from the Central African Republic, as there were no prospects of conviction, the prosecutor's office said on Thursday. Now, Maxime had faced charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity, other alleged atrocities committed against Muslim civilians in the Central African Republic by his self-proclaimed self-defense militias in 2013 and 2014. Now, the ICC's prosecutor Karim Khan said his office has concluded that there are no longer any reasonable prospects of conviction, even if the charges were confirmed. Let's listen in.
Punishable under Article 7.
The International Criminal Court said on Thursday that it had released a former militia leader in the Central African Republic and is dropping all charges against him. Maxime Mokom had faced charges of war crimes and crimes against humanity over alleged atrocities committed against Muslim civilians in the CAR by his self-proclaimed self-defense militias in 2013 and 2014.
Please be seated.
The ICC's prosecutor, Karim Khan, said his office had concluded there were no longer any reasonable prospects of conviction, even if the charges were confirmed. He added the decision was taken after changed circumstances regarding the availability of witnesses. Mokom, who was released on Tuesday, has denied all involvement in the bloodshed. The ICC's prosecutor says a new arrest warrant could be requested if more evidence comes to light.
And Niger's military rulers say they have foiled an attempt by Mohamed Bazoum, the former president they ousted in a coup in July, to escape custody. Now, the regime's spokesperson Amadou Abdraman said on state television, and I quote, "At around 3 in the morning, the ousted President Mohamed Bazoum and his family, his 2 cooks and 2 security elements, tried to escape from his place of detention." Abdraman said the escape plan had involved Bazoum getting into a hideout to the outskirts of Niger's capital, Niamey. Now, they had planned to fly out on helicopters belonging to foreign power towards Nigeria. Now, he added, denouncing Bazoum's irresponsible attitude. Let's listen in.
Niger's military leaders say they have foiled an attempt by Mohamed Bazoum, the president they ousted in July, to escape their custody on Thursday. Bazoum attempted to flee in the night with his family, cooks and security, according to the regime's spokesman, who added that the main actors and some of the accomplices have been arrested. The former leader had planned to fly out on helicopters belonging to a foreign power, the spokesman said. Since being overthrown in a coup on July 26, Bazoum had been held at the presidential palace in the capital Niamey alongside his wife and son. In September, his lawyers said he filed a legal case with the Court of the Economic Community of West African States against those who deposed him, and were also taking his case to the UN Human Rights Council. The attempted escape comes as the first group of French troops arrived in neighbouring Chad on Thursday, after being ordered out by Niger's military rulers. France has continued to support the ousted leader since the coup and is calling for his release.
Liverpool's and Egypt's star Mo Salah has called for humanitarian aid to be allowed into Gaza immediately and called on the world leaders to help put an end to fighting. The Hamas-controlled health ministry in Gaza said that at least 3,478 people have been killed and more than 1,250 people injured by Israeli airstrikes since Hamas' surprise attack on 7th of October, which left more than 1,500 people dead in Israel. Now, according to Israeli authorities, the footballer who captains Egypt's national team had been criticized for not taking up a defense on the Palestinians, and some critics had also started an online campaign to unfollow him on social media. Let's listen.
Liverpool and Egypt forward Mohamed Salah has called for the massacres in Israeli-Hamas conflict to stop and for immediate humanitarian aid to be allowed into Gaza. Hundreds of Palestinian civilians were killed in a massive blast at a Gaza City hospital on Tuesday, while concerns grew as supplies of water and food ran out.
What's clear now is that humanitarian aid to Gaza must be allowed immediately. The people there are in terrible conditions. The scenes at the hospital last night were horrifying. The people of Gaza need food, water, and medical supplies urgently. I'm calling in the world leaders to come together to prevent the further slaughter of innocent souls. Humanity must prevail.
Salah has already made what was described as a significant undisclosed donation via his agent to humanitarian organization, the Egyptian Red Crescent Society, in support of the people of Gaza. Both Israel and Hamas have issued rival claims about the atrocity, feared to have killed at least 500. Israel has said it will allow Egypt to deliver limited quantities of humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip amid its siege following surprise attacks by Hamas on October 7.
You're watching Africa Vision Voices. Time for a quick historical fact and back timeline about the great continent of Africa. Now this week, we continue with the Kenyan colony. We take a look at how the Mau shaped up, stood up against the colonial rule. Very insightful. Let's have a look.
They were armed at first with traditional weapons, and later with government-supplied modern ones. The real meaning of the emergency grew out of the bitter battles that took place between the Home Guards and the Land Freedom Army. Brother turned against brother, father against son.
As the fighting grew worse and worse, then there was a time when we were completely cut off, and we had no communication even with our wives or our children, or even with our other forest fighters or sympathizers anywhere.
In the end, it was the mass roundups of Africans in trading centers and urban areas that broke the Land Freedom Army's chain of supply and manpower. The police and the army swooped and arrested indiscriminately, removing their victims to hastily erected detention camps scattered around the country. Throughout the emergency, any African was liable to be arrested anytime, any day, anywhere. In April 1954, this policy culminated in Operation Anvil, when the colonial government was prepared to screen every African in Nairobi. More than 20,000 were detained. From mid-1954, the Land Freedom Army was on the defensive. Amnesty offers tempted some to surrender. Leaders were killed or captured. Recruitment from the towns and villages dwindled.
The entire Kikuyu population was uprooted and herded into protected villages with home guards and watchtowers. This isolated the rural people from the gangs.
They had to build their own villages. It was done by compulsory labour, and we surrounded the villages in areas I was with ditches with spiked bamboos in the bottom. So it really was extremely difficult for anyone or any animal even to get through them.
Villagization removed the Kikuyu people from their farms into glorified concentration camps, where they were given 23-hour curfews, and as a battle measure, it was very effective. It stopped food supplies to the forest.
On the fringe of their reserve in Kenya, 23 Kikuyu chiefs gather to sign a declaration condemning the murderous activities of the Mau Mau. The document appeals to all Kikuyu to come forward immediately with any information they may have about the terrorist activities, and stresses that the Mau Mau's bestial ceremonies are contrary to ancient tribal tradition. Even as this loyal gesture is made, General China, the Mau Mau's second most important leader, is captured. Wounded in the neck during a clash with security forces, China, fearing that the Kenya Home Guard would kill him at once, surrendered to the King's African Rifles. Found guilty of consorting with armed persons, General China has now been sentenced to death by hanging.
The measures worked. The tide was turning against the gangs. Growing numbers of Kikuyu came over to the government.
At Nyeri, some miles north of Nairobi, Kikuyu Home Guard and other African police gather for a tribal meeting. This baraza, as it's called, has been arranged so the tribesmen may learn of the latest developments in the war against Mau Mau. Wearing their traditional costumes, about 11,000 wait in silence for the arrival of the Governor of Kenya, Sir Evelyn Baring. Escorting Sir Evelyn is the Commander-in-Chief of Mau Mau Operations, General Sir George Erskine. Then Sir Evelyn outlines a new plan, an amnesty offer to the terrorists. Fundamentally, this means that any Mau Mau, whatever his past crimes, will not be hanged if he surrenders immediately. The governor then presents medals to police who have shown exemplary courage in clashes with Mau Mau. Whilst this ceremony is in progress, thousands of leaflets bearing the amnesty offer are dropped in Mau Mau territories. Already there has been fierce condemnation of the amnesty plan in Kenya. It has been described as exactly the same as offering Hitler an amnesty in 1943. However, supporters of the plan believe it is a worthwhile attempt to restore peace in the troubled land of the Mau Mau.
And welcome back. More news in a short while, where we'll be looking at Africa's Top 10, a segment about the hits and misses of Africa, the achievements and perhaps the rankings of systems and how efficient they are in functionality. That is coming up in just a short while. In the meantime, 2 boats carrying illegal immigrants on Wednesday were intercepted by Senegalese Navy patrol off the coast of Senegal. The 338 migrants, which had included many young people as well as women and minors, were then forcibly returned to Dakar Naval Base. The number of attempted migrant crossing to Europe has risen in recent months, with thousands arriving in places like Lampedusa in Italy and Spain's Canary Islands. Now, the Canaries are a main target for migrants attempting to cross to the Atlantic from West Africa. Let's listen in.
2 boats carrying illegal migrants on Wednesday were intercepted by a Senegalese Navy patrol off the coast of Senegal. 338 migrants, which included many young people, were then forcibly returned to the Dakar naval base. Today, the Walu deep-sea patrol boat boarded 2 pirogues off Lompoul, 150 kilometers off the coast. The number of migrants apprehended has risen to 338, including 35 women and 13 minors. This interception follows 2 others carried out 2 days ago by the same vessel off the coast of Senegal. With the number of attempted migrant crossings to Europe rising in recent months, Senegal's navy has stepped up its boarding and rescue operations targeting illegal migrants. In this general context, the National Navy is playing a full role alongside other government agencies. As I speak, a system has been put in place to intercept these canoes and prevent them from setting sail for European shores. For those coming from West Africa, Spain's Canary Islands remain a key target, with thousands arriving there this year.
Time for Africa's Top 10. Now, an immigrant is someone who came to the country where they now live from somewhere else. Migration in Africa involves large numbers of migrants moving from within and from the region. Now, in 2020, around 21 million Africans were living in another African country. That is a significant increase from 2015, where around 18 million Africans were estimated to be living within the region. The number of Africans living in different regions also grew during the same period, from around 17 million in 2015 to over 19.5 million in 2020. Tonight, on Africa's Top 10, we look at the African population. We are analyzing the immigration rates and percentages in the African continent. We straight and look at the terrific numbers of the countries in Africa hosting most immigrants, or the most immigrants in the continent. What are the top 10 countries? What are the most immigrants? What are the figures? How are those figures representative of the entire population with locals? And what do these numbers in these countries communicate in terms of migration, immigration, and movement in the great continent of Africa? This is Africa's Top 10.
Immigration is the international movement of people away from the country where they have citizenship in favor of a destination country where they do not have citizenship. We look at top African countries with the highest number of immigrants. 1. The Southern Africa region experiences a relatively high influx of immigration into South Africa. As of 2019, the immigration rate is continuing to increase, and the role of the female population of migrants is significantly growing in this movement and settlement. The majority of immigrants are working residents and influence the presence of several sectors in South Africa. The demographic background of this group is diverse, and the countries of origin mainly belong to sub-Saharan Africa and push migration south. A portion have qualified as refugees since the 1990s. At present, immigration policy is to retain the current immigration flows, although historically the government of South Africa has aimed to reduce its number of immigrants. Certain immigration laws have shifted since the end of apartheid. However, some provisions of the mid to late 20th century are still in effect, and xenophobia is prevalent.
Second on the list is Uganda. This country has the second highest migrant population in Africa. Uganda is one of the largest refugee-hosting nations in the world, with 1,529,904 refugees as of the 28th of February 2022. The vast influx of refugees is due to several factors in Uganda's neighboring countries, especially war and violence in South Sudan and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and associated economic crisis and political instability in the region. Uganda has relatively friendly policies that provide rights to the refugees, such as rights to education, work, private property, healthcare and other basic social services. In fact, the country's government has made welcoming and caring for refugees an important part of its national policy. Uganda's approach to refugees involves welcoming relatively anyone seeking refuge or asylum in the country, regardless of country of origin. They also allow refugees the freedom of movement and the right to pursue employment. Furthermore, refugee families are each given a piece of land so that they may benefit from agriculture, which is why the country hosts quite a huge refugee population and subsequently migrants throughout Africa. South Sudan hosts some 330,000 refugees and asylum seekers, mainly from Sudan, and has 2 million internally displaced persons due to conflict, insecurity and the impact of climate change. This has made the country the third highest in the continent in immigrant numbers, who mostly, unlike South Africa, are refugees from Sudan. Amid increasing violence and deteriorating conditions, the situation in South Sudan has escalated to a full-blown humanitarian emergency. The total number of South Sudanese refugees is nearly 2.4 million, making it the largest refugee crisis in Africa and the fifth largest refugee crisis in the world. Sadly, 65% of South Sudanese refugees are under the age of 18. The majority of those fleeing South Sudan are women and children. They are survivors of violent attacks, sexual assault, and in many cases, children are traveling alone. Often, they arrive weak and malnourished. When the rainy season comes, their needs are compounded by flooding, food shortages and disease.
Nigeria has experienced large internal and external migration flows in the last decades. In the 1970s, the oil boom attracted foreigners, and the country saw more people immigrating than emigrating. Nigeria counts about 66,000 refugees. The majority come from Cameroon. They are mainly hosted in the states of Cross River, Benue, and Taraba, the Nigerian states at the borders with Cameroon. As of March 2021, Cross River counted almost 38,000 refugees from Cameroon and over 16,000 from Taraba. Cameroonians flee from ongoing violence between security forces and armed groups to their neighboring country Nigeria. When it comes to asylum, after Niger, Cameroon is the most frequent country of origin for asylum seekers in Nigeria. Expats who move to Nigeria for work often benefit from a generous employment contract. Nicknamed the Giant of Africa for its large population and growing economy, major multinationals, particularly in the mining and oil sectors, have set up shop here and commonly employ foreigners. Ethiopia is the third largest refugee-hosting country in Africa, home to more than 930,000 refugees and asylum seekers, mainly from South Sudan, Somalia and Eritrea. In November 2020, armed conflict broke out between the Ethiopian government and the regional rebel force, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF. The conflict killed thousands and internally displaced millions of Ethiopians. After 2 years of conflict, a peace deal was signed in November 2022. Millions of Ethiopians are still in desperate need of humanitarian aid and protection. An estimated 9 million people across Ethiopia's conflict-stricken regions of Tigray, Afar and Amhara lack access to adequate food. In Tigray, nearly 40% of the population is suffering from an extreme lack of food. In addition to severe food insecurity, gender-based violence has increased significantly, but women and children lack access to proper healthcare, social welfare and justice services.
can always talk to us on Twitter at Musakali_real, on GNPI Africa, and on Facebook Imani Television, and on YouTube Imani Television Kenya, where we build your faith in Christ Jesus. This week's top comments coming up. Time for a featured guest on the show. Now this week we host Innocent Kipkemboi PALGIT. Now he is the visionary behind the One Team career coaches who specialize in immigration. The renowned man joins us to talk about opportunities they spearhead around the world and around the globe. He shares his insights about the biggest problem in Africa, his thoughts on the young African population looking to emigrate. What are the challenges and how do we get through them as a people of Africa?
Thank you very much. My name is Innocent Kipkemboi PALGIT. I am the CEO and the director of One Team Career Coaches. I'm born in Trans Nzoia, the sides of Cherangani, and I grew up just like any other kid. I was born in a moderate family. I went to normal primary schools, secondary schools, after which I transitioned to university, and then I worked in various hustles and jobs here and there, after which my ambition pushed me to go more and walk around the world. So I went to many parts of the world. I've worked in Europe, I've worked in America, I've been in Australia, many other parts. And I came back to Kenya some times back, and after I had a calling to come back and assist our people who really want to go to abroad in matters to study and to work and opportunities. And this has been really a blessing, because we have been able to coach and help people through the one team career coaches. So what inspired me to embark on this journey is the desire to see people succeed. I'm a person who I believe in success. I believe when I see someone settling down, someone being better and happy and improving. And one of the challenges that we had and that we have as a people is we lack coaches, we lack career coaches. Because career coaching actually starts from way back in primary to secondary and to university, and even to when you want to go and even work or study in the outside country. So One Team Career Coaches now was born out of that desire to ensure that we coach people, specifically those who could want to go to abroad when they finish their studies or when they have finished their studies. For example, in secondary schools, we always want to coach students maybe who are finishing school, who are in school and they want to go to abroad when they finish the school, in order for them to know and understand what are the marketable courses abroad, what are the opportunities found there, and what should they study in order for them to get the best chances when it comes to living and working in abroad. Having worked abroad myself, it has really been of help, because I'm able to tell someone of what can really sell, or what can make them get the highest paying job when they go to the outside country. So my main mission as a team, actually as one team, is to ensure that we assist people to make the right decisions when it comes to career path, to make the right decisions when it comes to going abroad. And this is not just a one-man company. It is many people. It's a people-centered company. It's a team. That is why we call it One Team. We have people around the world. In America, we have people in Germany, we have people in the UK. A lot of our people are in Australia, New Zealand, literally every part of this world. We have people who we partner for them to give us more information regarding opportunities and studies abroad. The reason why we focus more on studies is because actually studies is like a foreign exchange earner for many countries in the world. For example, in the UK, you will notice that they have set up world-class universities. In America, for example, University of Arizona, many other Harvard and many other universities, London School of Economics, University of Perth, University of Adelaide, Sydney, and all these world-class universities have been set up by these countries as a form of foreign exchange earner. So at many times they'll tell you that they want you to come first to study, and then they'll give you a job opportunity. So that is the first means that we use to assist people to relocate, because of one reason. Actually, it assists us to be able to take masses, or as many people as possible. For example, when we get job opportunities are always very few. They come and they are grabbed in the air. But when it comes to education, we are able to take as many people as possible. And the good news is that we have colleges, even in Canada or even Australia, that can admit young Turks, the ones that have just finished Form 4 here. Instead of going to a university in Kenya, you can just go direct to a university in Canada and study a diploma in various fields. The same thing to Australia, to the UK, and to many other countries. So this has been a good opportunity for our parents to be able to take children earlier. It's better when you take a child earlier. They'll, first of all, they're still energetic, and then they'll be able to settle and be more productive in terms of the number of years they'll be able to work outside the country. So these diploma courses are very much affordable. For example, for diploma, you'll start with around a deposit of around 350,000 to 400,000. You'll get an opportunity to study in these schools. So when you consider that money, it's way much cheaper and better than taking a child through the normal Kenyan university that will take many years, and you'll still have to pay rent, to pay food, to maintain the child throughout the years in the university. When someone studies abroad, they'll be able to actually work and study, and there are so many job opportunities when you're studying in these countries of the world. So, education is still the most legit, the most easy, the easiest way to conquer the world. So I want to urge our parents, because I always like addressing parents. At the end of the day, it's parents who will sell land, will take loans, who will have to chip in order, and guardians in order to assist these children go. And I've been telling people that in the next 5 years, through these one-team career coaches, I'm ensuring the communities around our environs that we will no longer be having our children idling in centers, playing pool table and all those card games and all, watching unnecessary, I don't know what, idling in the markets. We want to ensure that by the next 5 years, the markets will be empty, because all our kids and children will be abroad working and ensuring that they change their families back at home. Some of the benefits of working abroad are so huge that at many times many people have seen it themselves. For example, in where I come from, wherever you pass through a road, you will be able to see houses, new houses being built. And when you ask, they'll tell you it's being built by this family. The children are in America, or the children are in Australia, and they're building this mansion for the parents. We have seen cars, we have seen there is an change of life that is visible. It's not like we are just talking about the moon, or we are talking about rocket science. These are things that are really visible, and the change is so huge that we can feel it, and we have seen it within ourselves. And I want to say that when one person is abroad in a family, they are able actually to change or to maintain around 5 people back at home. Because I remember when I was abroad, I could maintain a good number of people easily, because you are able to make more money than when you are in Kenya. So in this show, as the Africans, as in this African continent, it is our time to go fast and then change home. The population of Africa is so huge that you cannot say everybody will go and then the continent will remain. We want to go, work on ourselves, improve on our situations. And then those people who are back home now, they must also work very hard. They must also make good opportunities out of the money that they get, because we are earning foreign exchange or from money from the people, or from Kenyans working abroad, is in billions per year. And you will realize that if we make good use of that money back here at home, we'll be able to change our continent, we'll be able to change our lives, and we'll be able to be a voice that will be heard in the world. As we speak, Africa has been left behind, but Africa is also the home of the future. It's the home of the great minds. It's the home that will shape the future generations, because it has the most untapped talent, the most untapped knowledge. And the moment we start opening up our minds and increasing our thoughts and innovating more, I am making it very clear today that Africa will be the giant in the future, and that future is no longer that far, it's nigh, it's at hand now. Some of the most sought destinations around the world for study. At the moment, Australia leads, followed by Canada, followed by the UK, followed by America. And the reason as to why Australia leads in these destinations is because it has weak, the Australian dollar versus the shilling is around 90 shillings as of now. But what the Australians do is they pay more. So if you're paid like, let's say 10 Australian dollars per hour while you're working, you'll realize that in Australia they'll pay 3 times. In the UK, it has the British pound. It is the biggest currency in the world, but now they pay less. They pay you like £1. For example, in Britain, you'll be paid like £10 per hour. But now it is less. In Australia now they'll pay you like 3 times that amount. So Australia is still the biggest destination, and as much as it's the biggest destination, we have challenges. For example, in Australia now we have a challenge on a very serious crisis on housing. There are no more houses. It's so hard now to find accommodation that you must plan ahead to find the best accommodation, or even to find accommodation, because finding accommodation abroad is not like here that you just see an apartment and then you are told to pay rent and deposit. You must apply, you must prove you are working, or you must prove you are able to pay rent. You must have a reference who will say, I know this person and I'll be able to stand on them for them in case of anything. So accommodation is currently a very serious crisis. And then there is a news that has just arrived that Kenya at the moment, we have been relegated from tier 2. We are now on tier 3 when it comes to getting visas. This is a very serious issue, because it's like they are pulling their strings and making it harder for us now to go to such destinations as Australia. But it doesn't mean that people won't go. It just means, like, for example, it's now mandatory to have a bank statement, and it's now mandatory to do the English test. This has been there, but now they just made it official. And it's not like we are now at the worst scenario, because a country like Australia, they are on tier 5, and it's quite difficult for them now to go to a country like Australia. So Australia is a good destination, and we have now more people. That means it's easier, because at least you know someone who knows someone who can be able to assist you in navigating through the country. The UK is good. The UK is really amazing. It has some of the best universities, the University of Oxford, Cambridge, Newcastle. We have some of the best, Coventry University, some of the best universities, and some of them are really world-class and affordable. And life there is also not that bad, because at the end of the day you are paid in pounds. Pounds is one of the biggest currency in the world. The same thing with Canada. Canada is open. You know, we always go to countries when they are open and they want people. That is when we rush there. So at the moment Canada is open. It's also good. America is also amazing, because it's now starting to open up. We will be able now to take more students and people to go and study and work in America. The challenges will always come. There are many challenges that come with life abroad. First of all, there's culture shock. Many times you're not at home, you're just landing. I remember there was a time I landed I think it was was it Berlin? Was either Berlin or it was Heathrow in London, and I had not been told of the condition, the temperatures. Remember, I was shaking in the airport, and I was so afraid. I was wondering, where am I? What kind of world is this? But anyway, you know, when you have stepped there, you must always find a way to navigate. And within a period of short time, you will find that you will be able to adapt and find your way around and start working and make money. Because at the end of the day, all this is a game of numbers. It's a game of money. We need to make money. We are going there to make money and be able to change our homes. So it's possible to navigate. It's possible to overcome. It's possible to make life reasonable. It's possible to improve. At the same time, you will be able to learn and get that papers, which are very, very important, especially when you want to transition from the normal jobs that you'll start with, which are at many times they say that you'll start with care job homes or care homes or support work or warehouse. These are jobs that you will just get them instantly. And then when you have your papers now, maybe you've got now your masters, you'll be able to transition now to a professional job. So professional jobs, they pay way bigger and better. It's like now working for the UN. It's like now working for multinationals. You'll be able to get more money out of a professional job than to get out of the casual jobs that we start with. Casual jobs also pay very well. In fact, we have people who have graduated and then they still find themselves in those casual jobs because these are world class, these are first world. This is first world countries. They have managed to give us an equal ground or an equal field for whatever job or for whatever opportunity you get. You will find that the highest paid person versus the lowest paid person the gap is not that big like here, for example, in Kenya. So even the people who are doing casual jobs like gardeners and gardening and doing such jobs, they'll still be paid per hour and they'll still be paid in pounds. So at many times it doesn't matter, and you'll realize that as much as you're paid per hour, it means you must be able to work more hours, because the more you work is the more you get paid. So some of us, we could work day and night. Some of us, we could work weekends. For example, it pays double to work on weekends, on a Saturday and a Sunday. Some of us could work for a whole 7 days in a week. And as much as the war is against poverty, you will say, let me make this money first, and then the rest of the things will follow. And then don't forget, like the more we increase in number is the more we stretch the opportunities. So we must expand on countries. There are some countries that I feel like we have not tapped on the opportunities and the jobs and schools around those countries. For example, the Scandinavian countries, that is Norway, even Finland is there, the ones that we have been hearing on the news. The entire stretch of the Scandinavian nations are nations that we should be able to tackle and see what can we get out of them. Japan is there, there's South Korea. We must see and expand our territories beyond the normal Australia and Canada and America. So maybe for those who are not aware, we are located in Eldoret. That is Safina Plaza, first floor, room F2. You can visit us there at any time. You'll be able to find us there. Mentorship is a role that cannot be left to parents alone or to teachers alone. It is a role that is so wide that even the government should be involved in trying to support organizations like our own now, career coaches like us, to be able to have more coaches, to go to more places, to go to more schools, to go to more markets, to go to more churches, in order to to educate our people on what are the career choices, what are the opportunities, for example, here in Kenya and even abroad, and what people should do more. So, as we mentor our children, we must never forget also to pray for them, because sometimes the devil is also a liar. We got to pray for our kids, whether they're in school, whether they're outside the country, wherever they are, so that when we mentor them, they'll be able to listen and get the right path in life. So in our organization, what we do, number one, we coach. We are career coaches. We coach you from the time you start in high school to the time you go to a university, either in Kenya or in abroad. So what's exactly our work? Our work is to coach you towards making the right path when it comes to a career. And then now we assist you to process your documents if you want to go to abroad. We research first, and then we'll be able now to tell you that these are the necessary documents, these are the necessary papers that you need for a particular field. For example, in opportunities in Canada and Australia is different. We'll be able to tell you that these are the most affordable courses, for example, for masters or for diploma or for degree courses. So what we do is to be able to research and give you the most fair deal when it comes to making the right decision on the schools. So for those people who are going, you will be able to work and study. In fact, the studies is what we use as a means to go there. And then you'll be able to study, and then you'll be able to work. For example, when you are doing a postgraduate, let's say a master's, you will be able to work for around 24. Every country is quite different. For example, in Australia, you will work for 48 hours a fortnight. That is, fortnight is 2 weeks. So lastly, my advice to our young people, to Kenyans, to parents, to everyone. For parents, let's allow our children to go outside the world and conquer the world. Because when you conquer the world, we will be able to change back home. We will be able to change Africa. We will be able to improve our life standards in Africa. There's more money there. It's just like when we are going for athletics. We go bring the money. So let's allow our kids to go and bring the money. And then for our kids going, or for our young guys going, when you go there, never forget home, because it all starts back home. Africa is the cradle of mankind. Never forget home. So each time when you are working very hard, whatever you earn, whether big or small, ensure that you use it to change home or back here in Africa. Because at the end of the day, remember that the people who assisted you to go there need your help in order for them to settle down. And you know one day you will still have to come back home, because east or west, home will always remain the best. Let's assist each other. Let's assist each other in the church. Let's hold on to prayer, because they say the foundation of knowledge is God. Let's put God first. Let's pray for our kids here and for our kids outside the country. Let's continue praying. Let's continue seeking the ways of God and His guidance. And at the end of the day, we will be able to make the right path and the right decisions for the countries that we are going. So I'll leave you with my contacts because that is very, very important. For those people who want to contact me, make sure you save the number 0719 565618. And my name is Innocent Kipkemboi PALGIT. So guys, ladies and gentlemen, may God bless you, may God keep you, and may God expand our minds and knowledge, because in Him do we put our trust. Thank you very much.
Well, that's just it for this week's episode of Africa Vision Voices. I certainly do hope that you did know something about Africa and how you can change and make your space impressive in the now and in the days to come. And like to leave you a quote, or with a quote, from Julius Nyerere. Now, Julius Nyerere is a founding father of the Tanzanian nation, and he says, "No nation has the right to make decisions for another nation, no people for another people. In Tanganyika, we believe that only evil, godless men would make the color of a man's skin the criteria of granting him civil rights." Let's learn from the great wisdom of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere. God bless you and God bless